Hey there, Zlatko here. Welcome to What is My Brain podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I get the opportunity to chat with fellow founders and business operators about their journey and how they got to where they are now, where they are going, and how they're going to get there. I'm planning on bringing guests and touching on topics such as running multiple businesses, executing ideas, and just spitballing about random topics and current events. It's a casual conversation, and that will hopefully bring value to anyone that decides to listen. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Brian. Thanks so much, man, for joining me on the podcast. I think we connected really early in the Ship 30 cohort. I think that's what kind of clicked us up originally. So I want to say thank you, man. I've been following you. Your Twitter is really awesome. I love what you're putting out there. And I just want to give you a floor. Introduce yourself. What do you do? What you're up to? Where'd you start and all that stuff. So just go ahead and give the people what they want, man.
Absolutely. Well, Z, I'm stoked to be here.
Awesome.
I've been seeing your stuff too. Love your enthusiasm.
I appreciate it.
And it's half the reason I'm here. It's just an exciting guy to hang out with.
I love it, man. I love it. Next time we'll have some beers, man.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Perfect.
Great. So a little context. So I'm Brian O'Connor. I live in Boston. Fun fact: grew up half in Boston, half in Ecuador. My mom's from Ecuador.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't see that much in the Brian O'Connor part of the name. Yeah. Sneak in the
Fernando. Oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, I spent a few years in commercial banking after college, and then transitioned over to management consulting.
Okay.
And so in consulting, I did everything from at the beginning, I spent a few years fixing companies' operations, making sure they're highly effective and efficient in mostly banking and financial services as a whole. And then my last 3-ish years, I've pivoted over to focusing in the tech sector and helping them with growth strategy. And so growth strategy is figuring out what markets do you launch into, what products should we launch, helping them come up with new ideas for products, figuring out which customers to target, how do you reach those customers, anything that helps large Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies grow. So I've been doing that for about 3 years. And in the kind of on the side, I've also been, I spent about 8 months trying to build my own fintech, shut the fintech down. And basically it was helping business owners sell their company. So learn the sales process and then match them with their investment bank.
Like M&A stuff?
Like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the story there kind of super interesting. We met a guy who got an offer from a private equity firm, and so excited, so much more than anything he imagined his company would be worth. But business owners don't know how much their company's worth. And little did they know, we walked him through the process, and turns out he was able to get it for 5 to 8 times what he was originally offered.
Oh, wow.
But he would have accepted that deal originally. And so what we wanted to do was level the playing field for business owners who just don't know how much their company's worth. And they're getting taken advantage of by all these folks who do. And so that's what we were doing.
Nice.
Yeah. And so through that process, I learned it's really hard to reach people.
Yeah.
And so audience building became so important. I fell into Twitter. I started kind of thinking about different ways to build audiences. And so when that fell through, I found solopreneurship through actually Justin Welsh, and kind of got getting excited by his track, and here I am. I joined the Twitter world.
I love it, dude. I love it. So how did you stumble upon Justin Welsh? Because I'm a big fan of his. I really love what he's doing. Very calculated with everything that he does, which is awesome to see. Somebody taking it. I mean, it's his day job, right? Like if he was to have a day job, it would be creating awesome content, and like he does a really good job of that. So how did you get connected? How did you stumble upon him and kind of get into the Ship 30 stuff? Where you were how did that all come about?
Yeah, so I sped through some of that, how I got to audience building part, but basically I started on YouTube actually.
Oh shit!
I said I would build a YouTube. and have the world's most embarrassing first YouTube video hidden on there, by the way. If I lose a bet, I'll send it to Z.
I need to see this now.
Horrible. Horrible.
Oh, man.
Well, so I just picture Brian just made the world's worst YouTube video. And I met a guy who was my neighbor in Boston by coincidence on a community for digital nomads, people who build online businesses and go do it overseas. And so we got drinks, and he was telling me about Twitter and how he grew on Twitter and how it's such a better platform to build an audience for what I was looking for specifically. And he convinced me.
Okay.
And so I decided to try it. He sent me a few people to look into as like idols, Justin Welsh being one of them. Came across his content and I read, I think, his steps on how he did it, and it immediately resonated with me. I said, wow, that's me.
Right.
And so then from there, I found, he also sent me Dickie Bush. I loved his content, listened to his podcasts, and through his podcasts, I came across Ship 30 and said, wow, I need this.
I love it. And so what's the goal? So, on your side of things, are you now using that to transition into, building, some sort of, whether it's a course or some sort of digital product, or are you looking to maybe start a business, but build the audience first in the community? Where's kind of the next steps on your
end? So now I'm focused on building an audience.
Right.
Eventually pivoting over to creating products.
Right.
And so I started with, from an audience perspective, I was really struggling to build an audience. I couldn't break 10. I got 7 and I was just stuck at 7. Right. I remember that.
Right.
And so then I did Ship 30 and that took me through to about 700, I would say. About between 600 and 700, which was great for 30 days. And definitely happy to talk about that process too at some point.
Yeah.
And then after that, I met someone who said, Bernie, who said, hey, you should do more courses because not only do you learn more information, but you're kind of meeting all these great people who can really propel you. And Twitter and social media as a whole is about the people. And so there's this realization that as you grow, others grow. And if you can create a community around you who's all driven to grow together, you just skyrocket.
Right.
And so that convinced me to join audience building course with Sahil Bloom.
Okay.
And Blake Burge. And that course was a big propeller because everyone around me was so interested in growth that all we would talk about, I've Twitter groups with a bunch of them just sending each other information on a daily basis, like how do you grow this way, or what's feedback on this thread, and just constant iteration that I think has really propelled me from that 700 figure to I'm now at close to 2,500 in about 2 to 3 weeks.
I love it. I love it.
Incredible ride.
Would you recommend that? Would you recommend that course like from Sahil for a lot of like creators and audience builders? Is that like, do you feel like with the combination of the Ship 30 stuff and with that, like that was the kind of the 2 gauges that just took you into the different side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I think any new creator, I'd say Ship 30 is the foundation, right? It's learn how to write, learn how to create systems, learn how to make writing easy, learn how to write in a way that attracts an audience. But coming out of that class, I felt like, hey, write something good, hit post, put your hands up. Like it'll go if it goes, right?
Which is not the case.
Which is not at all the case. So audience building taught me that to think about distribution. Right. So if you can, Twitter needs to think that, hey, that piece that Z wrote is incredible. Right. And so how do they know that? That's a lot of engagement up front. And so, so the class taught me about distribution, but also surrounding the people interested to grow. I think Ship 30 is people who are interested in writing. Doesn't necessarily mean growing. They're different.
Yeah. And audience building, that's completely different. Yeah.
That's completely different. So that's a heavily concentrated group of people who are interested in growing as quickly as they can. And so that means high quality content with great distribution. And so we send each other content. They'll look at it and give you very intense feedback
Yeah.
um, on a daily basis, and you just grow quick that way. I mean, you start putting out great content. You see the data come in, and I highly recommend
Is
it.
it?
And then I think I was
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
And the last thing, and the reason I got that down that road is because you were asking about kind of what's my end goal.
Right.
Ultimately, I want to create digital products. And so after audience building wrapped up, I'm planning on doing portfolio small bets with Dan Vasali.
Okay.
And so that hopefully by that point, and I want to do that in September. So at that point, I'll have an audience built out, a library of content. And then from that library of content, you can slice it 100 different ways to sell it as a product. And so the question is, what slice do you take?
Right.
And I think that's smart.
Are you thinking like more cohort basis or just like digital, just like self-serve type of stuff?
I'm leaning towards self-serve, but I don't want to limit because everything kind of excites me.
Right. Right.
So cohort would work. I'd be interested in doing a course, but my first pass will probably be some of the self-serve products.
That's awesome. And I was going to ask you, so how was compared to like Ship 30, which honestly, my first cohort, my first like course that I've taken online, I never did anything like that before. I really enjoyed it. I think the structure was awesome. I think the way it was led was really well. I think the community aspect of it is awesome. So I was really happy with it. How would you say that compared to what you're doing on the audience building side? How is the structure? Is it similar? Is it way different? And I guess which one do you like better at that point?
Structured very different.
Okay.
Audience building course is about 4 days.
Oh wow.
So it's rapid. And so content wise, I think they taught me some really interesting kind of strategies that I hadn't thought of before. And so well worth it from a learning perspective. But the beauty of audience building is in the people, the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I loved about Ship 30 was I met some incredible people all doing fascinating things. But I felt a little different, I'd say, because I despite really being interested in everyone and learning so much and learning about writing and all being pushing each other to write the best, there was this part of me that was just kind of like tapping my fingers, being like, okay, I want to grow. How do I do that? And I wasn't really connecting with people who felt like that way. Everyone was talking about, which is exactly what I signed up for. Like, how do I write better, but not really sure what they want to do with it. Audience building, I found other finger tappers, other people who were sitting there like, okay, great, but let's grow.
Yeah.
And so that was more for me in terms of kind of connecting like people.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's really making me want to like take that course. Like I really want to check it out. I feel like that's going to be a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you want to really grow as a creator, I think step 1 has to be Ship 30.
Yeah.
Step 2 has to be audience building.
Awesome.
I'll be taking, yes. I also signed up for Maker's Mark in the next few weeks. So we'll see how that
Which
goes.
one's that?
That's with Audit Chef and Brandon Zhang. So I think it's kind of similar to audience building, but the community is also similar to audience building. And so just super excited to meet fascinating, motivated people.
That's awesome. And so what do you think your course is going to be mainly around? Is it going to be around what you're talking about, like a lot of the competitive advantage stuff and what people are doing? Or how do you see yourself like building that out? Because I know, you could do like an initial one and then you're just like, oh man, I can expand this like way further. What do you want people to, I guess, get out of it? Because I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So in the strategy space, I feel like I found sort of a gap.
Okay.
By that, I mean, any strategy content you see on Twitter tends to be more strategy for startups, which is very different than strategy for large corporations. I'm not bringing strategy to large corporations because I'm not going to do that on Twitter. But the frameworks and ideologies that we use in kind of the Fortune 500 to 100s, um, I think are ideologies that are missing in the small business and startups.
So you're kind of bringing
In
that
terms
back
of
down, like you're bringing it down from, oh, I see.
exactly. So, like, how do you position yourself to differentiate yourself in the market? Like, how do you position yourself for competitive advantage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you can think through that, if you can think through what makes Z and Z's products so different and unique than the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
market, and then how do you also position yourself so that others can't catch up to you,
Uh,
right? So not only are you different, but are you different in a way that others can't or won't match
and
you?
what does that usually, let me ask
Um,
you really quickly on that point, what does that usually tie into when you're seeing that difference? Like when you find that company that's like, oh man, this guy's got something and nobody's really catching up. Like what do you usually see within that company? Is it IP related? Is it like style of management? Is it, what do you see? What's the differentiator?
yeah, so I mean, there's a
Right,
hundred
right.
more.
Yeah.
So competitive advantage is broken into three. Basically you have an advantage in supply,
Mm-hmm.
you have an advantage in demand, or you have an advantage in scale and costs,
Okay.
right? And so in each bucket, so let's talk about demand,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's say you have a company that has really high switching costs, right? And that means that once the customer's using it, it's a real pain to get off of it, right? They have to. It's really hard to find other companies to do it. You really got the customers there. That's an
Yeah,
advantage,
of course.
right? Because to steal customers, it takes a long
Right,
time.
right, right.
Loyalty programs the same way. If you get customers so fired up about your product, or you've got loyalty rewards
Mm-hmm.
programs that you can't pull customers away, that's an advantage,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, there's supply advantages. So let's say you have information and insights that no one else can access.
Okay.
That's an advantage. So any one of these, what I'm doing basically is I help companies figure out what's their goal and aspiration, right? Like what's the Z, if you have a company, right? Like what's the future company look like? What's the perfect
Right.
view for you? What are the values? What's your purpose
Mm-hmm.
as a company? What are your goals? Then once you have that, we say, okay, um, who are the people that you're targeting, right? Who are the customers you're targeting? What geographic markets are you targeting? What products are you launching? And then within all those buckets, we say, okay, how do you have a competitive advantage? And that's the supply, demand, scale ones in each of those buckets.
So you like almost like sub
And
niche
so
it down, like you basically like break it down even like one step further.
exactly. So I help you figure out for everywhere you play, markets, uh, customers, geographies, etc. How do you have a competitive advantage there in all of those things so that no one can beat you
Right.
and that you can win? You also have to define winning for everyone is different. So define how you want to win,
Mm-hmm.
um, and make sure you win. And so that's what I do for the large corporations who have full teams devoted to
Right.
this. Um, I do that full time. I spend all my time, all 90, 100-hour
Yeah.
weeks, unfortunately, focused on this. But small businesses and startups can't do that.
Right.
And so what if I could take all of these massive projects that we're doing and productize it in a way that we can access it to small businesses and startups, and that they can look at these guides or look at these courses and learn what we spend our lives doing, that other businesses don't have access to.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, that sounds to me like it could be a much higher price point of I mean, there's so much value in that to somebody, especially that's like, hey, I'm at this. I mean, let's take simply. I'll break it down to like a startup level, like Shopify apps. Like those are like huge now, right? Like everyone's just like making apps, selling them, and all these other things. But most of these people, I'm assuming, are probably underselling themselves. They feel like they're overselling, but they're probably underselling themselves because they don't know what their competitive advantage. They're just trying to, sell a company and move on to the next thing. I find that as really, really valuable because I think, I'll be honest, I don't really, outside of thinking like where we want to be and what we want to do, I don't think we have on an agency level, we have so much, I mean, we probably do, but so much to think about in terms of those like different levers in there. So it's like now we're turning a lot of our services into products, and now we're turning it on to be like, oh, now we can serve like 500 people instead of like 15 people type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Um, and I think today it sounds like what I just told you sounds
Right.
complex. Um, but my goal is to simplify it
Right.
and make it so easy and so accessible to everyone that like you should be able to read my document and understand how to give your company an advantage.
Right.
And that translates to huge earnings down the road, because if you can figure out how to grow your company
Hmm.
so big, um, yeah, massive earnings from that perspective. So
I love it.
I think it's something that's important, that large companies have access to, that small companies don't. And so I want to bring it down the pipe.
I love it. I love it. That's exactly so. My a recent light bulb went off about something very similar in the more of the freelance space. So my background is PM, freelance, build up an agency, and now going into product. So that's kind of like the timeline. And then I've been doing freelance work since 2013. And for me, I've gone through a lot of different steps. I've gone through, everything from like how to write better proposals to onboarding to all of these different things. And now I've just this week alone, I talked to 4 different freelancers that are in kind of that transition of, hey, I want to go from freelance to building an agency, or I'm trying to build an agency. I just don't know the next steps. I need templates. I need different things. And my light bulb went off because I'm like, man, we literally have all of this information like almost ready
Right.
ready to go, like from everything from the hiring process templates to like proposals for clients to offboarding new old employees. Like, I mean, you can take the range as far as you want. We have even like videos for that stuff because our operations internally have been just dialed in so well. And so that's literally what I'm trying to do to like the up and coming freelancer that's like, hey, I think I'm at a level where I made good money, but I know I can make more if I can have, I'm now like, for example, a marketing person, but if I have a developer and a designer over here, we can triple our income and,
Mhm.
do all these things. And I'm like, no, I literally have the sauce on how to do that. Like, I literally am holding, you know what I mean? So my light
Yeah,
bulb went
yeah.
off and I was like, oh shit, I really need to do something around this. I need to put something together. I need to, help these people out as much as I possibly can because I know it's a rough road. And even I always say this, like my whole thing is if I can save you like 3% of your time, you're 3% ahead of the person that's, doesn't know what the hell is going on. And so that's like my biggest goal. So it's same thing as you're doing
Right.
pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, you're taking your process and productizing it for others.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think there's a lot of value there.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. So tell me, what sort of stuff with the? I'm going to go back to Ship 30, but are you doing
Sure.
another cohort? Are you still going through that process, or are you good now? Like you're just going to go do other courses?
Um, so I signed up for Captain's Table, but I went through there's a bunch of micro courses. I
Right.
went through all of those. Um, but in the purpose of Captain's Table is to come up with a product.
Yeah, that's exactly why I
I
joined as well.
realized, yeah, and I realized I was going through it. I don't think I'm ready quite yet. I'd love to focus fully on audience
Hmm.
building, and creating my content library. I know I have enough. I could start doing a product on the side, um, but my plan as of now is spend the next 3 months just heads down building an audience. Um,
Do you have a goal
Salty
that you
makers
want to
aren't
get
coming
to,
up.
like when it comes to like followers or whatever it is? Is there like a threshold that you're trying to hit?
Yeah, so I'm targeting November 1st as my day to go full time solopreneur.
Oh, wow.
Um, so yeah, and so that's the goal. It's about 5 months, and so I'd love to hit somewhere between 35 and 40,000 by November 1st.
Wow, man, those are ambitious goals. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. It's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
And going down that path of like the solopreneur thing, I absolutely love it, man. I think that's the best way to go.
thanks. No, I appreciate it. I think it is ambitious, but I have a lot of great mentors who've done it,
Yeah,
and I'm with they're kind of coaching me through it, and they did the same thing. I've got a few that did 40,000 in 4 months,
wow.
and um, I've been fortunate enough to get their guidance. A, but B, I'm through the hardest part. I think is the 0 to 1,000.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
It is.
That was brutal. And I can talk about that whole process. That took me a while.
Yeah,
That
please
took me
do.
3
I'd
months.
love to know. I'd love to know like what you were struggling with and what you felt like you were doing wrong or weren't doing right, I should say. That
Yeah,
didn't, kind of take that a little bit quicker for you.
definitely. I'll answer that question
Yeah.
real quickly. I'll say it took me about 2 to 3 months, 3 months, I'd say, to go from 0 to 1,000, and then 1,000 to 2,000 took me about a week.
That's
week and a half.
crazy. That's crazy.
So like it starts to curve up. I At this point, I spent the greater part of that month learning how to write, learning how to navigate Twitter. Now once you've crossed 1,000, you have a bigger network. You've figured out how to write on Twitter. People respond to you on DMs more,
Yeah.
which is a real thing I've noticed. I did get a few responses from people I DM'd back when I had under 100 followers who responded to me after 1,000, said, "Sorry, I missed this."
You're like, no, you didn't.
You did not. I know you didn't. You're just paying attention now.
I love it. I love it.
It cracked me up. But okay, so you asked process from 0 to 1,000. What was that like? So 0 to 10 was brutal.
Hello,
0 to 10
anybody?
was brutal.
Hello, anybody? I'm here. What's up, guys?
I had one real friend on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And two. The other one doesn't tweet, so it didn't count.
Yeah.
And so it was trying to imagine following someone with one follower. So it's hard. And so what I ended up doing was, because I would DM people like crazy, really got great conversations, but no followers. And so what I ended up doing was going over to Discord.
Okay.
Finding groups on Discord and making friends on Discord, because at that point they can't see the social proof. They're not like, this guy's got 2 followers.
Right.
Everyone looks the same. And so I'd make good friends on I had two platforms. One was a health one, because I thought I was going to health at the time.
Okay.
And the other one was on digital nomads. So because that is my goal. I'd like to build digital products and travel the world a little bit.
Nice.
And so I would make friends on Discord and be like, "Oh, follow me on Twitter," and then they would. And so that got me to 7.
Oh man, you'll never forget that one, dude. You'll never
hustled.
forget that one.
No, I'll never forget it. I remember just sitting. My sister was in the other room, and every time I get one follower, I would just jump up and down screaming, and like, I got one, you know. And then and at that point, when I hit 7, I was like, all right, I need help. And so that's when I joined Ship 30.
Yeah.
And so when I joined Ship 30, I aggressively hit all the intro posts. Everyone who posted an intro and had something even remotely related to them that I could talk to them about, I would comment on their posts and say, hey, something personal about your life or something personal about your topic. And then say like, hey, super excited. We have a lot of topics in common. Like, let's chat. That converted really well. I had a list of Ship 30 people, and I would comment on their posts every night. That converted really well. And that got me to about 35, 40 maybe. And so that was a huge spike. It was super helpful. And then I started joining Twitter Spaces. At that point, I was grabbing for any followers. So pretty much any Twitter space I get my hand on. Got into a lot of NFT Twitter Spaces. And you'd be surprised if you join Twitter Spaces and people just see you as a listener, they'll follow you.
Oh man, I've gotten crazy amounts of followers that way.
Yeah. So I was a few Twitter Spaces followers, and then I would ask questions. I would always try to ask a question, and because the second they flag you as a speaker, people start following you there. And so I would kind of write a thoughtful question with a thoughtful comment, and then go up on Spaces, and that got me about another 30 to 40. And then what else? I kept hustling. I was able to, Samantha Demers became a good mentor of mine, because I just hounded her on Spaces. Until she let me help her out a little bit.
That's awesome.
What else? Yeah. Yeah, so it was a process, definitely, but it helped me cross 100, and then after that, the process certainly changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what was the process of? So when you started, were you kind of talking about the same thing that you're talking about now, or did you kind of have to pivot a little bit?
No, so I actually have a hidden blog called brianoconnor.com, um, where um, I wrote about health actually.
Oh, okay.
So my yeah, so the story background there is so I'm, as I mentioned, a management consultant, but I came from industry or non-consulting, and so when I joined, I felt so far behind my peers. I was used to kind of normal hours, and they were working 90, 100 hour weeks. I feel like it was nothing crazy, but I wasn't used to it, and so I joined, and people were working so much faster than me. They were just retaining everything. They were like telling great stories, getting great insights, and I was just sitting there like I don't know what's going on. It's 5 o'clock, guys. Can I go home? Like, uh, I'm hungry. I just want to go home, guys. Um, and so I was getting terrible reviews because I didn't have the skills. I couldn't function as quickly. I couldn't
Right.
get good insights, all that kind of stuff. And so the reason I go into that is because in order to just keep my job, I obsessively studied how do you think faster? How do you have more energy? How do you focus for longer?
Hmm.
How do you get better insights? And from literally 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every day, and then like full days on weekends, I would just study this stuff obsessively.
Wow.
Got into health because of that. Yeah. Because of that, got into health so I could keep more energy. Like studied meditation to focus more, learned about mental models so I can get more insights, like all that kind of stuff. Um, it got to a point where I definitely caught up to everyone and became a top performer, um, which was great because there's so much work went into it. But I didn't want other people to go through that same struggle I went through. Um, so I originally started writing about how to have more energy, how to focus better, how to think faster, how to read faster, like better insights quicker, problem solving, that kind of stuff. And so I wrote a blog on that. Blog didn't go anywhere, but I just send you the
It's
articles.
there. It's there.
I'll send you those articles. Yeah, it's
I
there.
need the
I'd send
video.
you
I need the
that before I send you my
YouTube video
YouTube.
and the blog. I,
Blog, yes, we'll negotiate on the video.
oh, that's hilarious. But the way you talk about it,
Uh,
though, like productivity and all these different things, I mean, even just those like little secrets and those little gems, I mean, I feel like that's not too far off from what you're doing now, just in a different capacity, really.
Yeah, so I started on Twitter writing about that. And then I started to back off a little bit because I was talking about longevity and health. And I started getting deep into those health spaces. And the people I was talking with were getting deep in the weeds of these molecules and heavy science terms that I don't know, right?
You're like,
Um,
no, this is not what I
and,
got into.
yeah. Uh, and so I thought about, hey, is there somewhere where I have an advantage? And that play is I actually love talking about strategy. I love. I don't think there's many people who do that kind of strategy I do, and I wasn't able to find any on Twitter. So I kind of started finding a space for it. And so my plan is phase one, talk about competitive strategy, right? Phase two, I'm thinking a think like a strategist because all those people I'm talking about how quickly they get these insights and how do they
Hmm.
problem solve so well um, are strategists. And so how do you um, those frameworks that got me so excited? I want to bring that to Twitter as well. So step one is my hardcore niche, which is competitive strategy or competitive advantage. And then once I've got a good audience there and want to expand a little bit, I'll do kind of like a think like a strategist. How do you problem solve like us? How do you
Yeah.
think like us? You know?
Yeah, I got a question for you. So, what if you were to be reset today, zero, back to Twitter zero, goose egg? The game is over.
Oh,
You
geez.
lost all
Okay.
your followers. What's your number one strategy right now? Would it be doing like same thing, or would you be like, oh, now I understand how to get this following going?
Well, if you reset me to zero, there's two things that you haven't reset me on. One is my ability to write and
Yep.
know how to write
There we
good
go.
content, and yeah, and two is my people. If you reset both of those, that's a different animal. But if I still know you at zero,
Yeah.
so like for example, there's a good friend of mine from audience building, Rob Lennon.
Okay.
Um, he is an incredible writer, and so what he did was about 2 weeks ago, he created a new account, reset to zero.
I saw that, and he built up to like 2,300 pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah. He's so good. His writing is great,
Yeah.
and so that's one where he writes good content and he knows the right people. Um, and so that it's tough because if you were to reset me to zero and say like you're starting over completely, like forget what you've learned, you have to figure it out from
That's
scratch.
different. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's still those two things, but you have to build it.
Yeah.
So step one is learn to write good content. Step two, find the right people. Um, the learn to write good content part is tough because what I did was kind of roundabout. I did the atomic essays. I did the threads. I studied copywriting like crazy. Um, if you said start from zero was the fastest way to get up there, I would probably look at everyone's thread and just take the best threads and just study what makes those best threads and then try to replicate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then from a people perspective, that's a hard one because if you don't have a follower count, it's hard to meet the right people.
Right. Right. You have to hack those
Um,
first like few hundred people somehow.
yes. Maybe if you can find other people hungry to grow, I don't think it matters what the niche is. And I don't think it matters how great of a writer they are. I think if you find someone hungry to go, they'll become great writers and they'll support you.
100%. 100%. I love that. I love that. Now, my follow up question to that is obviously
Fire away.
single tweets are, single non thread tweets are, in my opinion, not, I don't want to say dead in the water because I think they're done really well in certain cases, but I think threads is obviously, been a game changer for a lot of people. Do you have any predictions of what's next on that platform like Twitter, what people are going to start doing, what the next sort of that pivot of like Twitter, like what somebody's going to hack together and be like, this is it now. It's not necessarily threads are still good, but here's the next thing. I've been thinking about that a lot actually recently because I'm trying to figure out like what the next thing is. I love the visual people that are creating, like doing words and visuals and really doing that. There's some really clever folks out there with that. But I don't think that that's the thing. I could be, but I don't think that's like the hidden gem yet. I feel like something else is coming.
Yeah. So I've thought about this too, and the first thing that comes to mind is looking at YouTube, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
hooks. The hooks are similar in the sense that the titles are so important. That's hooks for us. That's titles for them. One thing that they have that we don't is thumbnails.
Mm,
They have a visual to entice you to click, right?
mm,
Um, but looking at, like, for example, Dickie Bush. Dickie's got a bunch of great thumbnails on his main threads. Not all of them, but some of them have done really well. Um, I've wondered why can't we have thumbnails?
right, 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 right.
And so like if I'm so right now what we have is, and this is a total guess, right?
Yeah.
But like right now, the only time there's a picture is if you're writing about a topic. Say I'm writing about, I don't know, I think I wrote something about Mr. Beast, and so there's a picture of Mr. Beast to entice you to click on it. But if you're writing something about you, why can't you have like a YouTube thumbnail, like just
Yeah.
like they do on YouTube?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So something, almost like your header image in Twitter, like into your thread type of thing, like something that signifies that that's you.
Yeah, like if you're talking about sleep, like you
Yeah.
can have a thumbnail of you sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
or because would that get more clicks? Probably.
Yeah, visuals, man. I'm
So
telling
why
you,
wouldn't that work?
visuals are important for people. And if you can, that's what I'm saying. I think the visual designer thing, like where you have people taking words and putting them into pictures, is very powerful, but it's only powerful if it's easy enough to understand from the first view. So again, your attention span has to be like, boom, I got you. Now you're reading the thread. Now you're liking it. Now you're retweeting it and doing that whole thing.
Yeah. Blake Burge does a lot of GIFs, actually. I don't think video does well on Twitter.
No,
Because you don't listen to tweets. You
right.
read them. But I think GIFs do well. You get like 3 to 4 second GIFs to explain what you're doing. I think those do well. So
Brian, I
there's
have an idea for us. I just came up with it, dude.
bring it. What do you got?
Dude, you know how tweets you could do like reader mode or whatever? You know that little icon at the
No.
top where it just clears up all the noise and it just lets you read the tweet? Did you ever see that on Twitter?
So I have an extension, minimalist Twitter extension that might do that for me. If that's what
I see. I see. Okay. The reason why
Yeah, but bring it.
reason why I say that is you just said something about like voice. What if you just had like a Chrome extension and it reads you that thread all in one?
Oh yeah. There you go. That's an idea.
Yeah, I think that would be sick. Because I mean, if I'm sitting here, I'm like reading the thread. Like I'd rather have that be read to me in a way.
Like an audiobook or like a podcast of threads.
Yeah,
There you go. There's your next podcast. You just you read through threads.
exactly. The best threads. Me, and, dude. Honestly, we should do that. We should go one day and just do like a 15-minute episode like this, and just like read the best threads and talk about why they're the best threads.
Oh, I'd love to do that actually.
Okay,
I love
perfect.
playing it.
Let's make sure to do that. We can even get on FaceTime or whatever really quickly. Do like a screen share, and you can go through some of yours, and I'll go through some of mine.
Yeah, so what I've been doing actually is every week. I've done this twice, but
Yeah.
anyway, every Friday I've collected the best threads of the week.
Okay.
So I've done that for the past 2 weeks. I might do that tomorrow too. But we could use that. I mean, I have a collection of all the best threads of the week.
And how are you collecting that right now? Like, what is making it on that list? Like, what are you looking at? Are you just like, oh man, this is like really interesting, or are you just looking at like, ooh, format? Like, this is really really cool.
Kind of a bit of everything,
Mhm.
I'd say. So it's a bit of an art. One thing that I highly recommend is mastering advanced search. Advanced search like really turns Twitter into a library of like you can find anything really quickly, and it
Mhm.
makes content curation amazing really quick. And so what I'll do is I'll limit the advanced search for that week. And then I have two screens, and up on one screen I have the search, and the other screen I have a list of of like big accounts, or like not big accounts, but like great accounts.
Yeah.
I think. But that's subjective to me. I probably go through about 100,
Right.
I'd say, really quick. And so then I look at their top content for the week, and I skim it and say like, include this, don't include this, and I have a Notion doc where I probably drop 50 threads, let's say, and then I just pick the top 17.
Love it. That's awesome. No, man, I'm going to take you up on that. I think we should do that. We should do like a 15-20 minute screen share thing, and then just go through the best threads and give those people love and give them all the love that they deserve, man.
Yeah, I love that. Especially because one thing that I know in my cohorts people have been craving is like what's working on this content and what's not.
Right.
And so I think having that perspective, because I definitely have opinions on what about the hook works, what doesn't it work, what formatting, all that kind of stuff that I'm happy to talk about.
That'll be our new YouTube channel, Brian.
I'm in. Yeah, let's do it.
Dude, we would learn so much. I'm telling you, man. We'd be the masters of Twitter threads and search and everything else. That would be awesome. No, we'll definitely do that. Are you focused on at all on LinkedIn at the moment?
I'm not. So I'm still employed. I think.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think pivoting over to LinkedIn would kind of give away my master plan.
Oh, right.
But Dickey was talking about his migration to LinkedIn and how basically he's already battle tested all his content on Twitter.
Yep.
And so he knows the the threads that work the best. And so in my head, same thing. I have 2,000 tweets right now. I don't know how many of those are comments, but
Right.
say 1,000, whatever. And I know which ones the best ones are. I have Tweetmix, so I just look at my best tweets, copy them, paste them over, and done.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that I've realized, there's one of my threads that just went ape shit on LinkedIn. I mean, got like over 40,000 impressions, I think, or something crazy. I don't know how many comments or whatever. Posted the same exact thing on Twitter, like a few days later. Fucking crickets. Like, dude, it's amazing when you see that happen. Like, and something will go on Twitter and you put it on LinkedIn and it's like crickets. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a game of just like take the dice and roll it and hopefully it works.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. But I have heard that Twitter is starved for content because you get people like me who are just worried about putting content on LinkedIn. And so there's less creators on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Whereas on Twitter, there's less fear.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. No, man, I absolutely love it. I love your journey. I love what you're doing. This has been really awesome. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? I don't want to hold you too long. I know we usually set up about an hour on these kind of things. Is there anything else you want to tap into that's been interesting, that you've been learning, that you want to share with people?
Interesting and learning. I mean, no, I think I do want to emphasize in terms of Twitter growth, the importance of distribution that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, and kind of how to build that, because that's hard to build, especially if you're not. Because my answer to I said two things were important. I said making good content is important. And I said distribution is important.
Yep.
But then the only answer I gave to how to find a distribution is sign up for audience building.
Right.
And so I do think that there's alternatives to find other people to distribute. But you need to find people who are hungry, and it's hard. I think it's a combination of finding people who writes content that consistently, but also like looks like they put a lot of effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
Send it, kind of working to add comments and engage with them, and then ultimately sending them a DM and building relationships. But it's kind of a shot in the dark.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
It is, and it's not a single pronged thing. It's not like I like your thing, like my thing, and we follow each other now. Now it's like you can like my thing, you could quote my tweet, you can retweet it, you could leave me a DM, you could leave a comment, and then you're just like, hopefully this person follows, and if they don't, they don't. Like, there's so many touch points now. I feel like where you were.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a strategy though. So like if I was Z, I wanted to reach out to you, let's say, right? What I would do is either turn on notifications or just kind of watch your stuff, and then put value added comments on on what you post, right? And so value added content is share a related resource, right? Add an insight that you know about that topic that isn't included, right? Or connect them with someone else. And if you can do those things a few times, maybe 2, 3, 4 times, then the next time you do it, instead of adding that value added insight in a comment, add it in a DM.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing you would have posted, but post it in DM. And then once you're in DM, the main thing is don't ask for anything.
Right.
Straight up only provide value.
Yeah.
And that value is, hey, let me take a look at your threads before you post. And I'd love to engage with that, so I can support you in your work. That kind of naturally happens to the person to do that in reverse, and then you've got the system going. And that's how the flywheel starts.
Love it. I love it, man. That's awesome. Brian, thank you so much for dropping all of these gems. Like I said, man, your journey is awesome. I look forward to seeing you detach from your day-to-day work and start your digital products and travel and do all of those things, man. Like, I can't wait to see that, dude, to see that come to fruition. So I'm really, really fucking pumped for you, dude.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to give you thread feedback on like
Yeah.
we do our threads of the week or whatever we're
Yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah. We're gonna do that for sure, no doubt, no doubt. We're gonna do that. I love that idea, just because I think we're all still learning, and I think there's a lot of undiscovered knowledge. I think within threads, and the stuff that people are posting and who to follow and all that stuff. So I definitely went down the list and audited my Twitter, and I was just making sure I'm not following people that are just gonna blow up my timeline with a bunch of different crap that I don't want to see. Like, I want to be able to go on and be like, oh, I can engage with this. Oh, this is really good, or things like that. So I think that's also another key factor is like you may not be able to, like you were talking about engagement. It's like you may not even be able to engage with the right people. You can turn on notifications, but if you go into your Twitter thread and you just want to scroll through, and if it's just a bunch of crap where people are like spamming you, or just it's like a bunch of NFT stuff, or if that's not what you're interested in, then you need to like get rid of that and make sure you clean up your Rolodex, basically.
Yes, yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, perfect. All right, man. Well, I hope you have a tremendous rest of your day. Thank you for your time. And tell people where they can find you. Hopefully, somebody will listen to this and they'll find you.
Amazing. Well, find me on Twitter. My handle is Brian F. O'Connor, and that's F as in Fernando because I'm Latino.
There you go. That's the Latino side of you right there. Brian O'Connor is not there,
That's
but what's the Fernando?
There it is. There it is.
I love it. I love it, man. Awesome. Well, good luck with everything, and we'll chat soon, brother.
Well, you made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning into What is My Brain podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got some value out of it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button or the follow button to get notified when new episodes are live. I'm out. Thank you.